There are hundreds of baby essential checklists out there, all saying that these are the essentials that you need. So I looked into as many checklists as I possibly could, and to save you the time from doing all of that, I've compiled all these lists into 8 main categories and subcategories, removed all the items that I don't think are necessary, and added the items that all these lists seem to miss. Now before we dive in, hi, if you're new here, then I'm Lottie, a first-time mum who is going to be your mum bestie by the way, and has done a lot of researching, reading, and testing things in real time so you don't have to. And this video is going to be your ultimate newborn baby essential checklist with all the items that you actually need. So let's start with probably one of the most important things, and that is sleep. Babies sleep a lot in the first few weeks, so you'll need somewhere safe for them to sleep. So it's recommended that baby sleeps in the same room as you for the first 6 months for both day and night sleep. So this could be a cot, a bedside crib, a next to me, all depends on your preference and the space that you have. Most of these cots or next to me's will come with a mattress, but you do want to double check that they do. Otherwise, for a mattress, you want to make sure that it is firm and flat. Then along with that, you'll need to get some fitted sheets, and I do recommend getting a couple just in case they get dirty while you have some in the wash, or if your baby is quite refluxy, you might need to get some more. As I mentioned, that baby should sleep in the same room as you for the first 6 months for both the day and night sleeps. And some parents might prefer to use something like a Moses basket, but I do think this is better for daytime sleeps as well. So you will just need something that you will be able to have in the room with you as well. Obviously, if you have a big crib or cot, then this isn't as portable, which is why some parents might prefer a Moses basket. Or you can get a next to me, which also have wheels, which means you can wheel it in and out, especially if you are in a flat. Then you'll need something for baby to sleep in, and this can be something like a sleep sack as well, or you can use different items like a blanket, sleep suits, and some people might prefer to swaddle as well. Although some midwives no longer recommend swaddling, but this is something for you to look into and decide what will work for you. Then some additional sleep aids that you might want to get to help a baby sleep and also help you understand how to dress your baby to sleep include items like a white noise machine or a nightlight, and you can sometimes get white noise machines that also double as a nightlight if you do want to save on getting loads of different things. Then a room thermometer, and this is really helpful because it will help you understand how to dress baby at night depending on the temperature. Again, you can get some white noise machines that can do all three, so it shows the temperature, the nightlight, and the sound machine as well. But sometimes the temperature isn't as accurate, but this again is something just to let you know the different options out there. Then you might want to get a pacifier or a dummy. Now this one might not be an essential as you will be sleeping in the same room as baby, and that is a baby monitor. However, if you do want a monitor so you can look back through and have some analytics of baby while they're sleeping, or just have that as an option so you can see them throughout the night, then this is something that you might want to consider getting, but I wouldn't class this as an essential. Now the next category is feeding. Obviously this is another big main category, and I do find that when I was looking through a lot of these lists, they tend to be a little bit confusing because what your baby will need also depends on how you feed them. So I've broken this down into breastfeeding, pumping, and formula as well. Now, if you're breastfeeding, technically all you need is you, baby, and your boob. But you may also want to be getting some nursing pads as well, as when you are breastfeeding and as your milk's coming in, you can leak, which if you don't want it going through onto your clothes, then you can get little pads that you put into your bra. Which leads me on to the next point, which is getting a bralette. You don't need to get exclusively nursing bras or breastfeeding bras that have a little latch that come down. You can use a bralette and they are perfectly fine. Just some people, if they are trying to use maybe a padded bra or anything like that that has fixed cups, it can be a little bit tricky. But again, it's down to what works with you. I don't think you need to spend extra money on getting a special nursing bra. Then nipple cream. And this is something that I use, but they are silverettes, which helps with healing of your nipples. And you can also put a little bit of milk in it. As I used the silverettes more, it meant that I didn't really use the nipple cream as much. So if you're not looking to get the silverettes, then I'll definitely get the nipple cream. If you're using the silverettes, you might not need the nipple cream as much, or just get a really small one just in case. Now, I know some of the lists included a nursing pillow, some didn't, and at the start, I actually just used a cushion off my sofa. However, I then did purchase just a relatively cheap nursing pillow, and this was really helpful because sometimes I felt like it could get a little bit messy as I was trying to breastfeed, and if the baby was sick, it meant that with the nursing pillow I could take the cover off a lot more easier than some of my other cushions and throw that into the wash. But if you wanted bare minimum essentials, then you probably don't need to use this as much. However, I'm really glad that I did end up buying this. The next one is nipple shields, but only if you are experiencing pain, because this isn't something that you want to be using all the time. It is only if you are experiencing pain with the latch. It is temporary while you let your nipples heal as well from that trauma. So I'm going to include this just so it's an option, but I wouldn't say this is an essential to start with. So when you are feeding baby, your milk is called your milk letdown, and as you're feeding on one side, it can also leak on the other. So what some parents do is collect that milk so it's not wasted. And for this, you can use a little milk, or I used a hacker and you just suction it onto the breast. It meant that I collect little bits of milk throughout the day and I could put that into storage bags, use it in the bath, or use it if I did need to bottle feed later on. But this is personal preference if you are looking to utilize that milk in any other way. And if you are looking to use that, then like I mentioned, you will need to get some milk storage bags as well. If you're just starting out with breastfeeding and not feeling that comfortable yet breastfeeding in public, then you might want to consider getting a nursing cover. This isn't essential and you shouldn't feel pressured to cover yourself up when you are feeding your baby. But I'm going to put this down as well if that is something that you're not yet comfortable with. Otherwise, you could just try using a muslin and tie it around your bra strap. If you are looking to collect colostrum for baby, then you would want to get mini syringes as well. Now, if you're wondering what is colostrum and why would you need it, the colostrum is part of your first milk, also referred to as liquid gold. So this is what your baby will have at the start. It is highly concentrated and dense first milk basically that is produced. Your baby's stomach is only really tiny, so you can't have a lot of milk to start with. So the milk that they do get needs to be highly nutritious. And what people sometimes do is start to collect this colostrum in the later stage of pregnancy to create a stockpile where they may take some to the hospital with them. So if they are breastfeeding and they feel that the baby needs a little bit more, then they can use the colostrum that they collected previously. Again, this is not an essential. So many people can't collect colostrum or struggle to, or they just don't and their baby is perfectly fine. I couldn't collect colostrum, I tried to, and I really struggled and I couldn't do it, but my baby was still fine without it. So it's not an essential. But if you are looking to do that, then you would want to get mini syringes as well for that. Now, if you're looking to pump, then obviously you'll be wanting to look at getting some pumps. This could be manual, this could be automatic. It just depends on your preference and your budget as well. You would obviously need some bottles and some teats to go with that if you are looking to bottle feed. And with that, bottle brush for cleaning and any sort of sterilizing equipment as well that goes along with that. You can get special pumping bras as well. So you would also want somewhere to store the breast milk that you have pumped. So this will be storage bags as well. You will obviously need some formula. And then in the UK, the NHS guidance is that if you are formula feeding, then you want to start with infant formula first. And this basically means that it's suitable from birth onwards and it is made from cow's milk. There are many different types of formulas out there, so just pick a brand that works within your budget and that you prefer. Don't worry about follow-on milk or anything like this. And then all the other sort of different types of formula that is out there are for specific situations, or if you've had guidance from a healthcare professional as to whether or not you should use that, such as anti-reflux formula. But if you're just starting out, just go with infant formula. Now, some of the feeding essentials in here as well can be muslins, burp cloths, or a terry towel, because after you finish feeding baby, you will need to burp the baby as well to make sure get rid of any gas bubbles, and sometimes they can spit up a little bit. So you'll want to get a handful of these as well, just so they're not spitting up onto your clothes. And the next category is obviously another very important one, and that is nappy and changing. So the subcategory of nappies and cleaning, you will need some newborn size nappies, which will be either size 0 or size 1. It just depends on the size of your baby. Now, there aren't loads of brands in size 0 nappies, but these do tend to range from 1 kg to 3 kg, and I will put a little diagram on the screen as well. Size 1 nappies, you will have a lot more brands to choose from, and this tends to range from 2 to 6 kg. So that is a quick nappy guide for you. If you aren't sure what size your baby is going to be, then get a mix of 0 and 1 just in case, and you can always pick up more once the baby is here. Then it is recommended in the UK to use cotton wool and water to clean baby's nappy area. So you will want some cotton wool and then also a little pot to have fresh water in as well. Alternatively, you can use wipes, but with wipes, you do want to make sure that these are fragrance-free and unscented, as baby skin can be extremely sensitive as well. Then you would also want to get a barrier cream as well for baby. Then for disposal and changing station, they need some nappy bags, and these are helpful. Even if you go to your health visitor appointments, you will usually be told to take the nappy back with you, so you will have to put a dirty nappy into your bag, so you will want a nappy bag as well. Then a changing mat as well. These can be portable, these can be ones that you have on your changing station. It all depends what preference that you want. Then I wouldn't say that this is an essential really, but a nappy caddy or somewhere that you have a pile of nappies, whether that is in a drawer, whether that is just in a box, whether that is just a bag lying around. When you are changing baby, just having a station where you have access and easy access, so you aren't leaving them unattended on a high surface, or just so it's easy access to change them quickly as possible. Next one is bath and hygiene for your baby. So when you are bathing baby, there are a couple of different options, but you can either get a baby bath or you could look at getting a bath supporter as well, which tends to be reclined that sits in an adult bath. So you'll want one of those. It is recommended not to use any sort of products on baby for the first 6 weeks. So you'll just be using water. For me, I used cotton wool and water for this as it is the softest. So it's not recommended to use any sort of products or cleansers like that on baby at the start because their skin is so sensitive and a risk of a reaction as well. So using just cotton wool and water to clean the baby. You could also look at getting some sponges or cloths as well if you would prefer. I would definitely get quite a few. If you are looking to get a cloth, get a couple so you have a lot of rotation. Then you will need a towel for baby. I would suggest getting a large towel just so it will grow with them and it's just less fiddly. A hooded towel as well, but again, I would look at getting a larger size if you are looking to get a hooded towel. I wouldn't bother with any of these baby dressing gowns. You can also get a bath thermometer, and I'm going to put this as maybe not an essential because you can use your wrist and elbow, but I will still include this on this list in case you are looking to get one of those. Now, if you are cleaning baby while you're in the bath, you may want something to kneel on. I just got a really cheap foam board thing that I use, but you can also just use a towel. So I wouldn't say this is an essential, but I'm going to put it down as an option, so you have alternatives as well. But once your baby is old enough and you start to want to introduce shampoos or moisturizers and things like that, then look at getting ones that are suitable for sensitive skin. Now, this section is all about travel and out and about products that you might need. So you'll need to look at getting an infant car seat and a car seat base if that is something as well that comes with you, if your car seat needs that too. So it is a legal requirement in the UK for young babies to be in a rear-facing car seat to start with, and a lot of these infant car seats will be rear-facing as well. So this is something you want to get, and if your car seat does require a base or isofix base, then you do need to make sure that you get this as well. And this will apply if you are planning on leaving the hospital in a car, that you will need to then take baby home in a car seat. Then you might also be looking at baby wearing and carrying baby, so getting either a baby carrier or a baby sling wrap. If you do want a review on a baby carrier and the one that I have, I will leave a link in this video or at the end of this for you to check out the baby carrier that I use. Then if you're looking to get around with baby and out and about, you might also want to be getting a stroller or pram. And if you are looking at getting one of these, you want to make sure it has a bassinet option or a one that can fully recline so they are flat, because like I said, baby needs to make sure that they are fully reclined and flat. Then a car sunshade, because I remember taking my baby home from the hospital and completely forgot about a car shade, and my poor baby was blinded and he'd only been on this earth for a handful of hours. There are 3 main options. There are one that goes over the window, one that goes and sticks onto the window, and then one which can be more of a pull down blind. For me personally, the one that goes fully over the window is one that I prefer, but the other options are there if you would like those ones. And also in the car, you might want to look at getting a car rear view mirror as well, so you can check on baby, as it's important that you want to make sure that their head doesn't come forward. Babies' heads are really quite heavy and they haven't yet got the strength in their neck to support. So when you're driving, you do want to make sure that baby's head hasn't come forward, because it is a risk of suffocation for the baby. So having a mirror there means that you can check on them. And also when you are putting in the rear view mirror, make sure that it is not directly in front of baby, as this can become a projectile if you are, for God forbid you were to get into a crash as well. So you actually want to put this on the middle seat instead. Then more of the on-the-go travel sleep options. You will want to have some sort of nappy bag or pouch for nappies and things like that that you're taking away. You might not necessarily need a dedicated nappy bag, all that is marketed as that, any sort of bag, but knowing that you need something to put nappies in when you do go out. Also with that, a portable changing mat. Some nappy bags will come with these portable changing mats, but these are also really handy when you are out in the bath. You can change a nappy wherever, as long as you've got a portable changing mat. If you are looking at traveling and going to different places, then you might need to consider getting a travel cot that you can take away, and obviously a mattress with that. Now, I wouldn't say this is an essential, only if you are someone who is looking to travel and go somewhere. You need to consider where baby will sleep as well when you do travel. Now, obviously baby will need to wear something as well, and for me, I just like round numbers. I'd say go for 10 of each things to start with, as it is just something easy. Then in the UK, the guidance is that baby wears what you're wearing plus 1 layer. So this will be either a bodysuit, which could be a short sleeve one, a vest version, or a long sleeve. They tend to be depending on the season. So I would say get 10 bodysuits. Newborns, they tend to stay in sleep suits or onesies a lot of the time. So I just say get 10 of those. It's an easy number. If you are in really warm weather or in summer, then you may want to get a mix of rompers in there as well. Now I've also included mitts. So even though a lot of these sleep suits will come with mitts, when my baby was in hospital, it was extremely hot, even though he was a winter baby, and he was only in a vest at one point. So he did have to have mitts on him because he was born with really long nails and scratched himself. Now, again, depending on the season, you may want to be getting a pram suit or a cardigan. And if you are getting a pram suit, you might not need to get a hat because these pram suits tend to have a hood, but you might want to get a hat as well, just in case. Again, depending on the season your baby was born. Now, socks or booties aren't necessarily an essential. It just depends maybe if you are going out and you want a little bit of extra protection under the onesie or pram suit. So this depends on how you dress baby, but I will include these as well just as an option. But with the socks, they tend to be in size 0 to 6 months. So if you don't use them now, you can use them later, but only get a handful because you don't need them a lot. The next one is health and grooming. You might want to look at getting baby paracetamol. This is usually from 2-3 months plus. And the reason why you might want to have this to start with is if you are getting your baby vaccinated at the around 6 weeks marks, they tend to suggest having some of the paracetamol as well. But this isn't an essential to have as soon as baby's here. Now, a baby thermometer is also something that you want to consider getting. And this is where the NHS suggests getting one that will go under the baby's arms, as these are more reliable than some of the handheld digital thermometers. For me, this product wasn't one that I ever saw on these baby essential checklists, and that is saline drops. Now, what this is you put a few drops into the baby's nose to help release some of that mucus, to break it down before going in with something like a nasal aspirator. My baby was really congested when he was a newborn, maybe because we were in winter and he had a bit of a cold. Once we got this from the pharmacy, this was an absolute lifesaver. So I would suggest having this as a backup. As I mentioned, a nasal aspirator or snot sucker, whatever you want to do. Poor babies, they don't have the ability to blow their own noses. So if their nose is congested or blocked, you need to be able to suck this out. You just don't want to overdo it, as it can cause inflammation because you're irritating the nasal passage. If you are having a baby more in the wintertime, you might want to look at vapor rub or humidifier as well, but I wouldn't say this is an absolute essential in comparison to the other ones, but I'm still going to include it on this list. Now, for grooming, babies' nails can be very long when they are born, and obviously they are at risk of scratching themselves. So you want to have any baby nail clippers or scissors or a nail file as well. You just want to be careful when the baby is born that sometimes the nail is still attached to the nail bed, so you aren't able to cut it. So this is only relevant if your baby's nails are extremely long, which tends to be common if your baby has gone past their due date, or just some babies are born with really long nails. Then a baby hairbrush, it kind of depends on whether or not your baby has hair. My baby didn't use or need a hairbrush for months later until he actually started developing hair. But I know that some babies are born with a lot of hair and therefore will need a baby hairbrush. If your baby does have cradle cap, this is something that can go away on their own. But if you are looking at something to help with the scales, then you can get a cradle cap kit, but this isn't an essential, but I am just going to include this anyway. Now, the last category that is included on a lot of these lists is play and development, and I've left it to last because I don't think it's necessary and essential for when your newborn arrives, because all they need is you. But I did want to include this as obviously babies develop really quickly. So if you do want an idea of maybe some items that might be helpful as your baby starts to become more aware, and that can include things like toys or books. For example, black and white cards. If you are to get any play activity or toy, black and white cards for a newborn is really good. Babies' eyesights are developing, so high contrast cards are really good and can keep them engaged. These are great if you're using for tummy time. Another item might be rattles. This is something that my baby absolutely loves, even to this day. So you might want to look at getting a rattle. And then as your baby is starting to mouth and teeth, this will be after around 2-3 month mark is definitely where that's, for me, that started to happen more. So having any teethers and things like that was really handy. So this isn't a newborn essential, but definitely one to look at having later on. And then also some books or board books as well. These can be black and white, these can be full color. It is more to do with you getting into the routine of reading to your baby and talking to your baby. Enjoy you reading to them. It's just to get you into the process. So is it an absolute essential? No, but it's always good to start that practice and getting into routine to reading to your baby. The next one is play gear. Now I think a play mat is really helpful, but you can just use a blanket like that on the floor. So I wouldn't say this is an essential. It is definitely now a play mat is something that I use a lot now. So because I knew I would end up using it, I might consider getting it from the start. But if you are stretched or you have lots of other things that you need to buy, I wouldn't prioritize this because you can just use a blanket. Now, the other one is a bouncer seat. A lot of these listed include this, and I did end up getting a bouncer seat later on because I did find it really helpful. So I can put him down in a bouncer if I needed to go and do something else where I didn't want to just put him straight onto the floor. Would I say this is an essential? No, because you can, like I said, just put them onto a blanket on the floor, and some babies absolutely hate it and they just want to be on you. So you could probably get away with not having this and decide whether or not it's going to be helpful for you later on. Once you get into the flow, you might just realize that your baby is a Velcro baby and will not be put down anyway. So will just wants to be worn and you will be baby wearing instead. I would say if you are looking for an absolute essential, don't get a baby rocker. These tend to be Bluetooth and a lot more expensive. I wouldn't invest into one of those until you know that your baby likes that. I just got a really cheap baby bouncer that I think was about 25 pounds. And it's something that we did end up using, but then that served the purpose. And so why would I spend extra for a baby rocker? Anyway, if you are breastfeeding or decided to get a nursing pillow, 100% use this or look at using that as a tummy time pillow as well, because that for me was the perfect shape and size for doing tummy time as well. You don't need to buy a separate tummy time pillow. So that is all the categories that are on these lists, and I will put this newborn essential checklist in the description for you to download for free, along with a complete master checklist of all the possible items you might need as well, just to save you from doing that too. I hope this has been really helpful for you. If you are a first-time parent or a soon-to-be parent and looking for motherhood and parenting advice, then I would love for you to follow along and let's be friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in some of my other videos. Bye.